You're listening to Cosmic Cousins Soul-Centered Astrology. For grounding your ass from all the new age sass. I am your host, Jeff Hinshaw. Season 3 of Cosmic Cousins is dedicated to honoring the interconnectedness of our universal family through embodied health, self-discovery, and deeper learning. Hey cousins, welcome back to another week of the show. I can't believe it's been a week already. We're just flying on by, and it's Gemini season right now, technically, but we're on the cusp. It's the Gemini twin energy moving into Cancer, the crab, and so we move into Cancer tomorrow, which is Thursday, June 21st at 3:07 a.m. Eastern Time, which means it's the summer solstice, so it's the longest day of the year. And so a little bit about what's happening in the cosmos. I don't know if you felt it, but on this past Saturday, Neptune in Pisces went retrograde. And so Neptune, in its highest, it's the planet of dreams, of spirituality, of mysticism, universal compassion. And it's been right at home in this sign of Pisces because Neptune rules over Pisces since February of 2012. And so it's going to stay in this sign until 2026. And so Neptune in Pisces, when it's retrograding, this is a time of daydreaming, of reconnecting with spirituality, but it can also bring up a lot of emotions. And so what I want to talk about, which is really special to this time, is that we have a interesting trine happening. And so a trine is when two planets are in the same element around the same degree. And so we have Jupiter in Scorpio, which is a water sign, which is also in retrograde, by the way. So Jupiter in Scorpio at the 14th degree, and then Neptune is in Pisces, which is our other water sign, at the 16th degree, retrograding back towards the 15th and the 14th, which is where Jupiter is right now. And so these babies are trying each other all summer long. And then also we have this other energy that's happening because the sun is moving into Cancer, which is the last of our water signs. So the first 2 weeks of July, we have what is called a Grand Trine, and it's when three planets are in the same element, but in three different signs within around the same degrees of each other. And so Sun in Cancer, Jupiter in Scorpio, Neptune in Pisces. And so we're feeling into all of this right now. So this is a time to reconnect to our spiritual self by re-examining and uncovering old hurts and bringing healing and nurturing energy to these aspects. This is the highest vibration and invitation from this Grand Trine. And so, but this energy, it's available to us at this time, but it can also manifest in its lower form. And so this could also, Neptune in Pisces could really be about depression, spiritual bypassing, projecting, escapism. Jupiter in Scorpio could be putting people on blast, exposing secrets maliciously. Cancer Sun is also, it's a moody energy. And so we have this energy, it's available to us right now. And so we use astrology as a practice to meditate on the soul-centered attributes with the intention that we can expand into them. And so, yeah, meditating on this Grand Trine, it feels really, really in alignment with the deep emotions that I've been feeling, just with, you know, everything that's going on in the world right now. We had Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain commit suicide. There's things going on in our government that, you know, just don't feel, it feels intense. We have children at borders being put in cages and taken from their parents. And so there's a lot of opportunity at this time for us to escape or to fall into depression. And so the world, for some of us that are more sensitive BBs, which if you're into astrology, let's be real, you're probably a delicate angel. Depression is a natural response to this reality we find ourselves living in. And so Yeah, today's episode is dedicated to depression and astrology. And I have to say that there were a number of things leading up to this episode, and many people have been posting about depression since these recent suicides, which is exactly the invitation of Jupiter and Scorpio. This whole year, Jupiter entered Scorpio right at the beginning of the hashtag #MeToo movement. And so we have been exposing darkness and shadows all year long, exposing sexual predators, talking about our shadows, and now talking about suicide and depression. And so soul sister Lindsay Mack, host of Tarot for the Wild Soul, I know most of you know her already, but this past week she released an incredible episode about trauma and tarot. And it's one of these episodes that I'm definitely going to listen to again because it's really rich, it's super deep, and it creates a much needed dialogue. And so with that episode, and also just many of you who I follow on the social medias being vulnerable, whether posting a selfie of you depressed or speaking out about how shitty you feel, it's made me realize I wanted to also be a part of this conversation. And because I too have experienced depression throughout my life. And so, yeah, we have a powerful episode today. We're going to talk about depression and how it can manifest through each chakra center. We're going to talk, that's a great lens for viewing depression. So we're going to talk about the chakra system and then how it can manifest through the different zodiacal signs of astrology. And so we have 12 special guests on the show today, one person for each astrological sign, and they will talk briefly. They each send in a recording of them talking briefly about their experience with depression and what they've done to move through it. And so some of them you'll recognize. For instance, we have Lindsay Mack as our Aries rep, and we also have our resident cosmic class clown Flittergaggett as our Sagittarius representative, and many other really familiar cosmic cousins who have been on the show or who are just in our healing community. And so it's my hopes that hearing all of them speak out about this, that a little help to show all of us how depression can manifest in many different ways and take many different forms, but that it's also a reminder to all of us that we are not alone with our depression. And when I put a poll out on the Instagram for this show, I asked the question, have you experienced depression? 93% of you all said yes. And with that, I think we're ready to go into this week's episode. So after we talk about astrology and depression, we'll honor the life of and look at the birth chart of Anthony Bourdain, whose birthday it is this week. And he's a Cancer sun with a Sagittarius North Node, and he traveled the world building bridges with other cultures through food. And so that's the side that we knew, but he also struggled with a profound sense of loneliness and depression. So we're going to honor his life and story. And then we also sit down and go deep into the waters of Cancer with my soul sister, Katie Watkins. And in our conversation, we cover many topics that are related to this idea of depression, but we talk about schizophrenia, mental illness. We talk about the stigma around depression and medication and how family members are affected by depression. And then she also shares resources for those with depression. And so, and then we cover some Cancer topics too, like lingerie as Cancer's self-care secret and Cancer as a little punk rocker sticking it to the man. And so, yeah. And then also it's a new season. So we move into Cancer this week. So we have a new season of Queen of the Zodiac. So we have Queen of Cancer coming up. And so I'll reveal our 16 new Cancer queens at the end of this week's episode. So you have that to look forward to too. So get yourself ready and let's dive into these Cancer waters. So let's start by taking a deep breath together. If you're new to the show, this is something we do each week because astrology is a powerful practice of expansion, and it really awakens us to receiving new cosmic downloads, to higher perspective, to deeper insight into our life, and which is all great, but this can sometimes take us out of our bodies. So by bringing our awareness to our breath, we thank ourselves for showing up, and we give ourselves a moment to align our body, mind, and spirit. And so we're moving into Cancer season, which means we're moving our attention from the twins, the hands of Gemini, to the rib cage of Crab with Cancer. And so I invite you to bring your hands to your rib cage. I like to put my right hand on the left rib cage and the left hand on the right rib cage. And immediately this connects me to the energy of Cancer, both protected and nurtured. And so let's take a deep, nourishing inhale into this part of the body, into the ribs. And you can feel the rib cage expand as you inhale. And allow yourself to arrive here on the exhale. And just try that a few more times, being really loving with your breath. And so I invite you throughout Cancer season to make this a part of your practice, to explore this very delicate and sacred part of the body, thanking it for all that it provides, protecting your organs. And you can even, I like to tap on the rib cage as well, just like gently with the fingertips. And so it's a place where we can store a lot of emotion. And so you can just gently tap here as well this season. And so, yeah, depression. What is depression? So what I'm going to offer for you is coming from a holistic perspective. It's important to note that I'm not a trained physician or psychiatrist or therapist by any means, but I have deeply studied the human psyche, particularly through an Eastern modality lens under Anadea Judith, author of Eastern Body, Western Mind, which I highly recommend you pick up if you're looking for a new perspective. And so depression occurs when there are blockages to the energetic body. This is just another way of viewing it. And so depression, we could describe it as a low energy. There's less vitality or life force moving through the energetic body. And often this can be, it can have two ways that it manifests, but suppression of emotion is one. This is like the energy is like slowly, it's like shutting down. It's being suppressed. It's not having, the chakra center is not having a way to be fully expressed. Another way it can manifest, which we're probably not going to get into as much today, would be the opposite, where like something shot out, like where there's an excess amount of energy in the third eye, for instance, and it gets shot out, and then it's like a shutdown to the system. And so, yeah, those are two different ways that they can manifest, but they both will result in depression. And so I would like to introduce this topic by just exposing the chakra system. And so the chakra system that I use is 7 energetic centers. And so you can think of a chakra. Chakra is Sanskrit for wheel. And so it's like a digestive system. Each chakra center is its own digestive system that's digesting and assimilating energy. And we feel the chakra and chakras in our body. Like, for instance, a broken heart would be definitely trauma to the heart chakra, or when your throat closes up. And so we can feel these. It's maybe something isn't actually happening physically to the body, but energetically we feel a shift. And so we'll start at the root chakra. So this is the base of the spine. Muladhara is the Sanskrit word. It means root support. And so you can think of this energy. Well, for one, you can even take an inhale here. So you locate it by breathing into the anus. And this is how you locate the root. But the root chakra, I like to visualize a square, 4 sides, which creates a base or a foundation. And so these are the 4 corners, or sides to the square, that make up our basic needs. And so one side of the square would be shelter. This is a basic need. So this is home, this is shelter, this is earth. Things that make us feel safe and actually protect us. Another side of the square would be food and nutrition. We absolutely need shelter, we absolutely need food. Another side is the health of the body. So the connection to the body and health. And then the last side of the square is resources, which would be like money and clothes. And so we've got shelter, food, body, resources. These are our building blocks. And so if we have trauma to any of these areas of our life, it could have result in depression and a closing down, a shutting down of our energy. And so this, a major trauma to the root chakra could be, you have to move out of your home because your landlord's crazy. That's been one in my life. Or you break your leg, or that would cause a major trauma to the root chakra. And so if someone breaks their leg, they might find themselves depressed. Or if you lose your job, or you aren't making enough money to pay rent, this could result in depression. Aren't eating foods that are healthy for your body. You aren't paying attention to your body. All of these would manifest as a block to the root chakra. And so for some, if this continues for a long time, it would definitely result in a draining of your energy, which can then lead to depression. And this sort of depression might manifest differently for you than if you had a trauma to the heart, for instance, which we'll get into in a bit. And so signs of a root chakra that is being depleted and that could then be leading to depression could be fear. It could be not feeling safe. It could manifest as feeling really sluggish, of overeating, of hoarding on one end, but it could also be like really flighty on the other hand. And so these are signs of a weak root. And so these are the building blocks. So this is a really important chakra to be working with and to understand. And so, but the symptoms could manifest as low energy. And so we're better to bring balance to this. If this is where you're sensing that your depression is rooted in, by seeking housing assistance or having a nutritionist or a financial coach, finding ways to better your health, to better your living situation. Maybe it's even living at a homeless shelter. This is like our basic needs, getting food stamps. And so for some, they might not admit that to themselves, and this could also lead to some more depression. And it's also would be connected to all the other chakras too, like the sense of self-worth, which is the solar plexus, not having family that supports you, that's the heart, not feeling like you have a right to speak because you're now homeless. I don't know. There's so many the root is so basic. It's our building blocks. It's our foundation. And so, but then we move up to the sacral chakra. And so this could be anything related to sexual trauma, to sexually transmitted diseases, anything in relation to your sexuality, lack of clear boundaries, like in an abusive relationship, for instance. And this can manifest the sacral chakra. When there's trauma here, it can manifest to addictions. If you're moving through this energy, send love to this region of the body. You can visualize orange light here. And so this visualization process, it helps to free up stagnation or spiritual debris that may be caught up in these regions. And again, I'm not saying that intentional breath and visualization is by any means going to heal your depression, but I'm simply offering it as a lens to uncovering where your depression may be rooted. And so if we can become aware of the root cause and be lovingly attentive to that, we can find modalities that will help. And so therapists that would help to heal the sacral chakra would be therapists that specialize in sexual trauma. It would be maybe finding a sex-related support group or AA, or and eventually leading up to some sort of movement therapy, like allowing the body to be fluid and free, and so that would help. Yoga is great for the sacral chakra. And so then we move to the solar plexus, and this would be a lack of purpose or direction. It's answering to other people's first, to other people first, and it's like a sense of low self-esteem. Like maybe living out the timeline that your parents or your culture set out for you. And so it's a lack of belief in the self to truly be authentic in who you are. Maybe you were always told that you weren't creative, or you weren't an individual in some sort of way. And so, this is the source of depression for many people, the solar plexus center. And I still work through the solar plexus every day. And that work to me, I mean, for one, this working with the solar plexus, I used to have debilitating stomach pain. So if you have a lot of stomach stuff going on, if there's a tightness in there, it's an indicator that this could be the root cause of symptoms that you're experiencing with depression. But work that I've done in the solar plexus, it led me from not working as a banker, which is how my life was lining up for me, but instead becoming an astrologer, and eventually now having my own podcast. And so it was this debilitating pain in my stomach that I always felt that my depression was definitely attached to. And so it was almost like my spirit was communicating to me like, hello, like you have a right to be you and to break free from those that are telling you don't. And there's a deeper calling and purpose for you. And so breathe into the belly. Tell yourself you have a right to be you, to be an individual, to create the work in the world you want to create. And so things that would be helpful for solar plexuses would be working with a life coach, going to the gym, empowering yourself, positive self-affirmations, eating healthy, right? So solar plexus is the digestive system. So eating healthy is really great for this. These are all things that you can do to reignite this fire energy. But it can take a lot to get this going, because last thing you want to do when you're depressed is be your own cheerleader. And so I hope in some ways that this podcast is helping those with the depletion in the solar plexus. And so yeah, I'm telling you now, you have a right to be you. I believe in you, and you have a right to be your own authority. You're beautiful, you're amazing, you're a genius. This is helping to heal the solar plexus, and then we can move up the rainbow bridge to the heart. And so, man, let's just take a deep breath into the heart chakra, into the center of the chest. This is a really sensitive area, and this could be trauma from the loss of a loved one, the end of a friendship or relationship, not feeling accepted or loved or wanted, and definitely it's linked to trauma with your family, to being abandoned. And so, wow, this is a big one, and this center has also been a source of my depression too. And if you're feeling that too, be really gentle with yourself. The heart is the bridge; it's the middle of the entire chakra system, and so when the heart is depleted, this can really affect the entire energetic body. If this center closes down, it's hard to even want to get out of bed, to even see other people, to be with the people you love. But this is what you need more than ever in healing this center. And so we get so good at building walls around our heart because that's what protects it. But it's surrounding yourself in vulnerability with people who love you. And if you don't feel like you have that, as much as you may not want to, group therapy, collective work, being in communities that have emotional support will really help the heart chakra. And so if you're not ready for group energy, emotional freedom technique could help. Essential oils, eating greens, surrounding yourself in loving environments, like not going to a bar or to like a scary movie, but really just like being in super sweet and gentle energy, being in nature. Reiki is really powerful for the heart chakra. So yeah, I'm sending love to all of you that are feeling this heart energy right now. And this is moving us up to the throat. And so this is connected to maybe lies or not being heard, or a lack of creative expression in your life could also lead to this closing down of the center. And so if this is the source of your depression, it may manifest as you shutting down emotionally. It could even be suppressed anger, not speaking out. And so journaling, singing, practicing compassionate communication, kirtan chanting, screaming into a pillow might help. Just being able to unlock the throat. And so then we move into the third eye. And so when there is a depletion in the third eye, it's not knowing what is true. So this could be being gaslit by someone. This could be someone telling you that you're not smart, or not to trust your intuition, or actually eyesight is associated with the third eye. So seeing something that is really traumatic, like an accident or someone dying, would definitely blow this chakra out. And so spending too much time on the internet too, taking in too much information. And right now I'm staying at my parents' in Virginia, and the telephone is going off. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's just like when there's like too much information, too many things happening around you. And so this is like a source of depression for many in this new age that we find ourselves in. And so this chakra, it can manifest as a loss of eyesight, headaches, migraines. The best thing to do here, if this is the source of your depression, is to put your phone on airplane mode, to disconnect from technology. Practices like the tarot can be really helpful. And so listen to Tarot for the Wild Soul and Rootlock Radio on iTunes. Guided meditations are really helpful. Anything that's getting like new images, guided imagery, anything that uses the imagination. Going to see a pleasant movie, going to an art gallery, stimulating the third eye with pleasant things. Meditation definitely helps here too, which is segueing us into the crown chakra, which meditation is also great for the crown. But finally, the crown chakra, right? It's the little halo that's right above the head. So you can, or maybe the big halo. So you can breathe white light into here. But a block here can manifest as a disconnect to the world, a disconnect to God, to spirit, to source. And so this can really, over time, give people a lack of meaning in their life. And can become really dark, And so, and we talked about how chakras can get blown out. I see the crown chakra is one that can get really blown out. It's when people are like immersing themselves so much into spiritual work to the point that like it just blows out and they become depressed and there's no meaning to life anymore because they found so much meaning to life. And so it could also be people when they're not giving themselves permission to expand their mind, maybe out of fear. And so this one is usually connected to past experiences with trauma to another chakra. But to heal the crown, you can breathe white light in here. You can wear lighter colored clothing. Fasting or detoxing, silent meditation retreats. These are things to heal the crown if you're feeling like this is where your source is coming from. But I'm going to tell you that most of y'all, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably aren't experiencing a depletion here. Because astrology, this is connecting to something higher and having an open mind to a practice like this. And so probably don't go out and fast or go on a silent meditation retreat unless you're like also feeling like you just like have third eye things going on where you maybe need to disconnect. But I don't really recommend fasting to too many people. And again, I'm not a nutritionist or a therapist. These are just tools that I've used in my life. And so, yeah, that's the chakra system. I think it's a really useful tool for understanding depression and the many ways that it can manifest. And so this is also why I wanted to go over the astrological signs. And so depending on what's going on with your chakra body and what your disposition is astrologically, you might experience and express these forms of depression in many different ways. And this is why I like holistic practices, because imagine 12 people walk into a room that are all depressed. If you go to a Western doctor, they're likely to treat all 12 patients with depression the same way. But when we're using holistic modalities, when we're using astrology, like if you came to me for an astro reading telling me you were depressed, I would be looking at your unique birth chart and giving you your own unique prescription for each of these 12 people that might walk into the room. So what I might say to an Aries would be very different to what I might say to a Virgo. And so that's why we have 12 different people on the show today. We actually have 13 people on the show today. So I'm going to have one person from each sign share with you their experience of depression and what they might offer to that sun sign to bring deeper insight and healing to depression. And also, we also have a 13th person. We have 2 Capricorns. So our second Capricorn is going to offer to us for those specifically moving through their Saturn return right now in Capricorn. And so, yeah, this is just enjoy this little astrological journey and sense into how it's manifesting for all of these people. And so we'll go ahead and we'll start that journey now.
Hey, my name is Lindsay Mack. As an Aries, I have experienced depression. One of the biggest challenges in the experience of my depression as an Aries has really been surrendering to the utter loss of control, because depression really is an extremely potent and very unique chemical experience, and other than taking the measures and the steps that you can, we really can't make depression go away until it goes away. The thing that has helped me as an Aries to balance this has been really honoring, bowing, allowing the depression to be there without trying to control it. And two, kind of using the natural, organic Aries can-do fire to, even in the fog of depression, say, okay, what and how can I honor, take care of, nourish, hydrate myself during this time? How can I best support my chemistry? And the weaving of those two have really, really helped in my process. So I hope that helps all my Aries friends.
Hi there, this is Adriana, Art of Loving on Instagram. And I'm going to share with you today a little insight around depression as a Taurus. So I've never been clinically diagnosed with depression, but I know that I've lived through it and still experience it in subtle ways now. It typically has manifested for me as a lot of sleeping, just feeling very, very, very deeply low, and heavy, and and just feeling like, really not worthy. And some of the things I would suggest, I think there's varying degrees of depression. So I'm not really speaking to the most extreme degrees of it, which I feel, require lots of different healing modalities, from therapy to, all types of things that can help us in these harder moments. But if one of the things that I found really helps is body love practices, like getting massages, like dancing, doing things that really get the body kind of, get me in my body and remembering who I am beyond the heaviness that I can feel at times. So I hope that helps, and I hope you're all doing so well and feeling lots of love today.
Hello, my name is Edgar Fabian Frias, and I am a Gemini. I've had quite the journey with depression. I definitely had years in my life where I felt so unloved, unseen, and unsupported that I really let it get to myself. It affected my ability to truly step into the magic that I found in myself today. I was shy, I was quiet, and I hated people seeing me, but yet I craved it so intensely. Growing up in a small town 50 miles east of Los Angeles, I was one of the few queer people I knew, and I was profoundly inspired by contemporary art practice, but was, for the most part, ridiculed or ignored when I tried to share my excitement with others. One of the most powerful things I ever did was to start going to therapy and to use my magical gift of language as a Gemini to use words to discover and befriend my pain and the inner experience I was having. One of the first biggest realizations I had while in therapy was that my inner experience was that of hopelessness and a lot of self-hatred. This was just the beginning of a journey towards learning how to both love myself and allow myself to be loved. As Geminis, we are so gifted at being able to utilize language in ways that allow us to create a healthy psychological distance between ourselves and the intensely visceral experience that can be emotions and relationships. We are also so gifted at creating connections and making new friends. Therefore, I feel that my one advice to a Gemini is, if you don't like the story you've been living, you have the gift and responsibility to create a new one. Embrace the sadness and the pain that comes with realizing that you might not be exactly where you want to be, and go out there and make the new connections needed to change your life. Surround yourself with people who celebrate you and who you celebrate back. And don't ever be afraid of asking for help. There are so many people out there who want to see you blossom into the divine being you are meant to be. Vulnerability is beautiful and sacred. It unites us profoundly. Cherish the vulnerable in yourself and in others. And soon, your inner and outer story will start to shift and change.
Hi, I'm Tessa. I am a Cancer Sun and Moon, and I also have bipolar. So specifically rapid cycling bipolar, which means that I, throughout the day, will have manic and depressive episodes and kind of bounce back and forth or rapid cycle through a manic and depressive episode, meaning I kind of go from both ends of the spectrum, from like being super depressed and everything being the absolute like worst, and can't get out of bed, to being super duper excited and doing some really kind of risky or scary things that normally I should be scared of or like afraid to do, but I'm very excited. So specifically with depressive episodes, one thing that I find helps is this a analogy of our emotions being a bank. And when I have to do things that take money out of my emotional bank, instead of treating myself afterwards, I treat myself first. Because it's like you can't take money out of your emotional bank when there's not money in there. Like in the first place, you'd be withdrawing on zero. So instead of like, for example, I just finished dialectical behavior therapy, and would have to go to group therapy every week to study DBT. And I would go for a coffee afterwards. And then my psychiatrist suggested going for a coffee before I go to DBT, to put money in my emotional bank before I have to do something difficult. So I actually have money to like withdraw from when I have to do something, whether it's like emotional labor for other people or just something that's really difficult. And it might be as simple as, drinking coffee in your favorite mug for when you make breakfast, or making something for breakfast that you actually really like, rather than just, like making some waffles with berries and like powdered sugar, instead of like I'm the worst for just having coffee for breakfast and that being it. So yeah, doing things for yourself that are really good for you, to put money in your emotional bank.
Hi, I'm Mary Greasy, and I just wanted to talk about my experience with depression as a Leo. Probably about 8 or so years ago, I was living in Chicago, and my mom was in the hospital. She had a little percentage to live, and at the same time, my boyfriend at the time broke up with me. So I was contending with a broken heart and trying to navigate the mortality of my mother. And I didn't know what to do with my body. I didn't know what to, just like how to get up in the morning. Like literally I would lift my hand and it would fall down to the bed. So I would say that the thing that got me through as a Leo would be definitely, I surrounded myself by other people. Being alone was not the answer. I needed other people to get me through it. So I think, also too, the brighter the light that a Leo shines, the more that the shadow is cast. So, we have a big heart and we want to give it all, but when that heart is broken, everything is shattered. It seems like our whole world is this dramatic, cataclysmic thing, right? So I would say, the advice that I might offer other Leos is to not go through any of this alone, to make sure you have a really strong support system. And also, I didn't really mention this before, but I'm an artist, so I would say part of the time dealing with this depression, I was creating a lot of artwork and forcing myself to get to the studio to create. So I would say any way that you can create and work with your hands to get yourself out of your headspace is a really good thing to do. Thank you, Cosmic Cousins, for having me. And I wish everyone the best of luck and all the love. Thanks.
Okay, so as a Virgo, how do I experience depression? This is a great question. I think it takes me a second to acknowledge that I'm feeling depressed. I usually have actually a really hard time naming my feelings without writing it down first. So I journal a lot, and I also am constantly like writing notes in my iPhone and things like that. So, gosh, my jaw tenses up when I get depressed. And I remember I usually feel really kind of irresponsible, and I really have to kind of let myself feel a little irresponsible, or in a safe way with my depression. But I kind of have to let that Virgo sun know that right now we're not going to do any work, and there's nothing wrong with me, and that it's actually really responsible to look my depression in the face. But that's something that it always surprises me. I always have this feeling of like, oh gosh, like how irresponsible of me. And it always surprises me. So I think that's kind of how I initially experienced depression as a Virgo. Thanks. Bye.
Hi, it's Luke Simon. I'm a Libra, and I've experienced depression when things don't go my way and things are difficult. And what I've learned is that things can't always be pretty. I think being ruled by Venus, there's a lot of joy and love and friendship and luxury, relaxing. And I've had to really come to terms with the yin and the yang of life, and really just opening up to the gritty, shitty, stressful parts, and finding a place in myself that can still be in the vibration of the love that I'm so attracted to. The other thing that's really helped me heal depression, being Libra, is art and creating and transforming energy through creativity. Like going through a lot of just like difficult love lessons, and it's been so helpful for me to write music about it. So I have my music project, Sex Crystals, and that is kind of an outlet for some of those feelings. And then, you really transform stuff through art, and then the art itself becomes that container, and the creativity and the spark, it kind of holds space for you, and it's like this circle that is the edge of the yin and yang, so then it can contain like the dark and the light. So I would say for me it's been an experience of really welcoming all parts of life, all different parts, not trying to run away or not being disappointed.
Hi, it's Jericho. My experience of depression as a Scorpio has been extreme, I guess. I think I've just done like the typical Scorpio thing and thought that the only way out of pain was to fully immerse myself in it until I'm able to dive back out again, ideally having learned something. That for me manifested as a lot of listening to sad music and plotting revenge, basically. I used to be willing to stay depressed forever if I felt like it got me closer to the truth of who I was, if you know what I mean, which is a very ego-centered approach though. So getting to more like of a soul-centered place meant applying my principles to the greater whole. So like fighting for humanity's healing was a big motivator for me, because I was still able to use my innate strengths, like being motivated by the idea of triumph over adversity, but for something bigger and outside of me. So that idea of self-sacrifice has been a great source of transformation.
Hey, this is Anthony, aka Flittergagged, aka resident depressed Sagittarius. I've struggled with depression my entire life. And see, I used to think of my depression as a problem that I needed to solve. Like the feeling itself was something that I wasn't going to accept. And so I had to gather tools or become smarter to make the feelings themselves go away. But so as I've gotten older and I've kind of shed some preconceptions about how I thought I needed to be, and also just like several years of therapy. I started to accept that my feelings are invitations guiding me towards some necessary action. And I think maybe when I was younger, I didn't like the responsibility of that because it requires me to do something. And I mean, sometimes it still just kicks my ass, takes me out, but it's made me a more honest person. I think maybe a more dimensional person. It's made it a lot easier to relate to people. But I think the function of this is that depression has called me to develop a compassionate, loving relationship with the truth. And I think I was scared of the truth for a really long time. And my depression is probably the primary tool that I've used to, become friends with reality and with myself. As a Sagittarius, truth is like the entire reason for everything. It's our sort of soul's fixation.
Hello, my name is Whit Forrester. I am a 6th house Capricorn sun with also Mercury. And the way that I experience depression is often deeply affiliated with whether or not I feel I'm making progress in my life. And this can take a lot of different manifestations. Sometimes it's work related, sometimes it's friendship related, sometimes it's romance. It's all these things where I will sort of give myself a goal, and if I feel like I'm not reaching it, it gets really depressing. So some of the strategies that I've developed around it are to write, because my Mercury is at 15 degrees, and I've found that for a Capricorn, that can be a super therapeutic process.
Hey, what's up? I'm Verge the Astrologer. I have a Capricorn stellium, including my Sun, Venus, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus. Saturn's transit of Capricorn has coincided with my Saturn return, and 2017 was far and away the most challenging yet character-building year of my life. In March of 2017, I blew out my knee playing basketball, requiring major surgery. Capricorn rules the knees, and this was one of several ways Saturn rained down on me with restrictions, discipline, and karma. These challenges caused me to become severely depressed as I felt stuck, unable to focus, and devoid of confidence. Ultimately, the time spent alone healing mentally and physically allowed me to discover my purpose and put in the work necessary to bring it to life. This experience has showed me that manifestation requires hard work, planning, and consideration. With Saturn in Capricorn, the best thing one can do is be patient, and if nothing else, focus on one task per day that will get you closer to the mountaintop. A year of slow and calculated steps, positive affirmations, and surrender has brought me from my darkest moment to a life filled with purpose, meaning, and structure.
Hi, I'm Erin Aquarian, and I live with depression, and I have my whole life. I identify a portion of my depression to be my own related to childhood trauma experiences, and I identify another part of my depression to be related to the collective suffering of humanity that I have been aware of as long as I can remember. My earliest childhood memories, I felt the pain of people on the streets and the injustice that I could recognize but no one explained to me. So I cope with my depression by, first of all, claiming it and normalizing it. It's not that there's something wrong with me, it's that there's something wrong with the world that I live in. And the conditioning that I've experienced to stuff and fear my feelings and to believe that I am supposed to be happy and productive all of the time. And when you're someone who really feels a lot of grief about your life, about the world, if you experience a lot of traumatic loss in your life, as I have, it's hard to be in happiness all the time. Human emotion is a spectrum, and we as a culture do not want to deal with the uncomfortable feelings because they mean that we can't be productive and busy all the time. So our culture is really intolerant of the full spectrum of human emotions and wants to medicate and control them. So I have never taken medication. I fought it off from a young age when my abusive parent was trying to put me on medication. My spirit would not allow it, and I've always sought to heal myself through herbs and spiritual modalities, and that's not always what works for others, but I'm really, really grateful that I never altered my own brain chemistry with pharmaceuticals. That's a part of my story. And another thing that I think is so essential is just coming out of isolation and connecting with people, talking about your feelings, admitting when you need help, and knowing that when you do that, it give you the opportunity to have your experience affirmed and to be told that, yeah, there's nothing wrong with you. I feel the same way. This is a very sick world that we're living in, and it's not us. It's not our fault that we are responding with mental and emotional illness. So thanks for listening. I hope that my experience and perspective can support you in your experience.
Hi, this is Anais from Mystical Mandrake Root. So I have a lot of experience with depression, and I'm sure this is a common thing for us water signs, and it becomes a really overwhelming place to be in. And as a Pisces, since we feel so much, we're these creatures of the deep, our antennas are far-reaching. We can just feel it on such a level that we may not even want to get out of bed, or we may escape. And I find, as a Pisces, finding ways to be re-inspired, to find beauty around me again, to find reasons to get up, all of that helps me get out of depression. So whether that's spending some time to watch your favorite movie, taking a bath, being with your best friend, like sitting under your favorite tree, listening to songs that mean something to you, find and create a space for you to be inspired again, to feel like love in your heart, to feel connection again. Because feeling disconnected from all of that, I think, can keep Pisces in depression longer. And we need to feel that there's beauty in the world. We need to feel that there's magic around us, and hope and love and beauty and connection. And if we feel those things, it can help us pull ourselves out of depression, more successfully, because a sad Pisces can get very lost. So I find inspiration in art and music, and I like to create stuff when I'm depressed because it reminds me of how powerful I am, and not only creating, but sharing that with other people, because it reminds me of just the beauty and connectiveness of the world. And I think that is an important thing for Pisces to have around them. So I find that helpful for myself, and maybe some other Pisces may find this little bit of information helpful too.
And so there you have it, cousins. Thank you to all of those who sent in your story. I know I definitely feel much more supported and connected, and I learned so much more about depression through your words and your experience and your offerings. And so listening to what all 13 of these people had to say about depression through the lens of their astrological sign, and just meditating on what I already know about the signs, I was able to break it down through the elementation and the modalities of the signs through the lens of depression. And so I'd like to break that down for you now. And so let's start by looking at the elements and the modalities, and then we're going to look at each individual sign. So 4 elements. We got earth, air, water, fire. And so the earth signs, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, they may really experience depression in their bodies. And so I want to start out with these elementations. Exploring the elements that balance you will really help. And so what balances earth is water. And so these signs may actually get physically sick in their body to the point of exhaustion, may feel really lethargic. And so if you are an earth sign, explore the element of water. Take a bath. Find ways to move your body. Engage with fluid movement. Allow yourself a cathartic experience to maybe cry, to be emotional. Watch movies. Give yourself permission to stop working, for Pete's sake, especially Capricorn, and maybe just watch a movie. Air signs, well, let's do water signs because we just did Earth. So water signs are deeply emotional and they're feeling into all the feels. And so if you're a Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces, you may cry a lot. You may feel a lot. You may be super sensitive to everything. You may be wallowing in your despair. And so exploring the Earth element, actually hanging out with Taurus, Capricorn, and Virgo peeps would be really helpful so they can anchor you, but give you some sort of walls to your canal, to this river that's flowing. And so that can help you to move again and to not feel like you're drowning. So organizational things, body things, cleaning your room, eating healthy, being in your body. These are things that are helpful for water signs. Earth and water go together, and then fire and air go together. And so air signs, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, may experience depression, especially through their mental outlet, through their mental capacities. And so, which can manifest as anxiety. These are the signs that are really prone to anxiety. And so if you are an air sign, find a healthy outlet through fire. Go out into the world. Spend time with others, especially fire signs. Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius can give you a bit more uplifting energy, who can really listen to your thoughts and feelings, but also remind you to bring your air energy down through your body to create, to explore, to express your anger. And then fire signs, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. You can think of when these signs are depressed, it's like a fire that's about to go out. And so we don't want to put water on a fire that's about to go out. We don't want to put earth on a fire that's about to go out. So fire signs, maybe not hang out with your water and earth peeps at those times. They could put your flame out altogether, but actually the air element will help to reignite your flames. And so for fire signs, it's really powerful for them to learn how to communicate what they are feeling. And this can be through journaling. It can be through having a therapist to guide you. And so that's sort of like me breaking down the elements. And then I'd like to break down the modalities. And so there's 3 modalities. There's cardinal, there's fixed, and there's mutable. And so fixed signs can get really stuck in their element. This is Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. And so fixed signs, when they are depressed, they're in it. They aren't moving. They're not budging. They're locked. And so for these people, getting the body moving, getting out of your fixed beliefs, getting out of your normal routine. Cardinal signs, these are our initiators. It's Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. And so cardinal signs, when they are depressed, they might have a tendency to want to be in control, to do things, to see it together, to be like, nope, nothing's wrong. I'm good. And so these are a little bit more of our tougher energies in depression. And so really letting go of the need to do or to act or to just be okay with not doing anything. This is helpful for cardinal signs. And so it can be a big letting go of ego for these peeps. And the mutable signs, these are our adapters and our changers. We got Virgo, Gemini, Sagittarius, and Pisces. And so these are the ones who may have a tendency to escape or to distract themselves with their depression. And so really acknowledging the depression is a great start here for these signs. And so I hope that you find that helpful. I know I sure did. And I also just kind of want to bring this up too, because collecting 12 clips or 13 clips from all these different people. I would just want to say Scorpio literally sent theirs in like within 30 seconds, was like, I got this. Scorpio's like, depression? Okay, let's do it. And then Cancer and Pisces were the next 2 to send in. The water signs were just like really, really receptive to this. And then I thought it was interesting when Luke Simon, our Libra representative, was talking. There were like birds chirping in the background. I thought that was cute. And then Sagittarius, the Sagittarius person I asked just never responded again. And so I didn't... Sagittarius is off like traveling the world right now. And so I ended up asking Anthony Flittergaggett to be our Sagittarius representative, and I'm so glad that I did. And so thank you, Anthony, for doing that last minute, and for everyone who sent in their response. It was really beautiful to learn from you. And so that concludes our portion on depression and astrology. And so now we'll move into honoring the life of Anthony Bourdain. And so we'll transition to that now. Anthony Michael Bourdain was an American celebrity chef, author, travel documentarian, and television personality who starred in programs focusing on the exploration of international culture, cuisine, and the human condition. He is considered one of the most influential chefs in the world. You might know him from his best-selling book Kitchen Confidential, or from his food and world travel television show A Cook's Tour, or Anthony Bourdain's No Reservations, The Layover, and he also was a judge on the show The Taste, and concurrently switched his travelogue program to CNN to host Anthony Bourdain Parts Unknown. So without a doubt, his life and career were jam-packed, and something you may not know about him is that in addition to books on food and travel, Bourdain wrote both fiction and historical nonfiction. And it just started thunderstorming here in Virginia and pouring down rain. And so if you hear that in the background, it's sort of setting the mood for this tragic story. And so we don't have Anthony's birth time, and sometimes this happens, and that's totally cool. So what we do know about him is that he is a Cancer sun, and his birthday is coming up this week, and his moon was either in Capricorn or Aquarius, but his rising sign we do not know because we do not know his birth time. So it's a bit more difficult to look at a birth chart to know how the energy is activating through the houses, but we can rely more on the aspects. And so Cancer sun, we'll start there, is about nurturing and caring for others. And so we can see that manifest through cooking for people, and also his ability to make people feel comfortable and safe and at home, and to share stories in a heartfelt way. And so then we look to the sun and we see what other planets are kind of having a conversation. And so his sun is trine Mars, which when planets are trine, you can kind of think of their energies merging together. So this gives Mars is the ruling planet of Aries, so this kind of gives this adventurous, daring personality. It gives us a bit of Aries energy in regards to his Cancer-like qualities, with that Mars trining up with the sun. And then we can also look to his North Node. If I don't know someone's rising sign because of we don't know their birth time, then their North Node would be the next closest thing to the rising sign. And his North Node is in Sagittarius, so we can kind of think of him as a Cancer sun, Sagittarius rising, just to kind of get the energy feels there, which tells us the direction of his life purpose, what's being eclipsed in. And so here it's world travel, it's cultural expanse. This is Sagittarius, being a bridge to other cultures. And that's exactly what he did through his life and work. And so, yeah, Cancer sun, Sagittarius North Node. I also want to talk about polar energies. For an astrological sign to activate from a soul-centered place, you will find that these individuals that have often explored their polar energies. And so the polar energy sign to Cancer is Capricorn. And we see through Anthony Bourdain's life his dedication to self-discipline and hard work, and his public recognition, his leadership, his authority throughout his career. But we need to say that this wasn't always something that was a part of his life. He didn't become well known until 40. Most of his 20s and 30s, he battled addiction and depression and stayed at home. I read about him, which it all feels very Cancer. And it wasn't until he was 40 that he came out of his Cancer shell later on in his life. And I found that really inspiring. So if you're still figuring out what you want to do with your life, no, Anthony Bourdain didn't become a chef until 40. But yeah, he definitely allowed himself out of his Cancer shell and into the Capricorn spotlight. And so the Cancer evolves and they allow themselves to explore these far reaches of Capricorn. But you don't stay in that Capricorn energy. You then return to the Cancer energy with a newfound sense of home and family and emotion. And so he was a father. He's quoted saying this, quote, "Since I became a dad, I do feel responsibility at least to try to stay alive," which is an interesting quote to be highlighted there, considering we know that he ended up committing suicide. So he's saying this in response to some of his more reckless behavior, because something that made him really famous was that he would put himself in dangerous situations, like he put himself in the middle of war in Beirut, for instance. And so that's also this sort of like Mars trine Sun, and also the Sagittarius North Node energy that we're feeling there. But he didn't spend a lot of time at home, even though he was a husband and a father. He spent a lot more time working and a lot more time alone with himself. And here's another quote from him. It's one of his famous quotes. His quote, "Travel isn't always pretty. It isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it hurts. It even breaks your heart, which that's very Cancer. But then he goes on to say, but that's okay. The journey changes you, and it should change you. And so studying his life, we could maybe even say he perhaps immersed himself too far into the realms of Capricorn as a Cancer. Maybe he was a bit more sensitive than he was letting on. And so to the point that he felt isolated in his work and career. And so right now what's happening, so we can look at, what was happening the week of his death, but transiting Pluto and Saturn are both in Capricorn. And so these two big players are opposing his natal sun in Cancer at the time of his death. So that opposition is in regards to transformation and responsibilities, in regards to his authority. So it's opposing the Cancer sun's emotional sensitivity, his tendency to want to hide in his shell maybe. And so Cancer has changeable moods, and maybe with its cardinal energy, we could say that Cancers can make abrupt decisions based off emotionality, cardinal water. And so Bourdain's life came to a tragic end in the midst of his work. He was away on business. He was on a trip filming another episode, and he was away from his family. And from this quote that I read in a magazine, it sounds like his family didn't even really know where he was. This is the last thing that his wife wrote to him, quote, "I hope you're having a good trip wherever in the world you are." And so that's the last thing his wife wrote to him. But yeah, Anthony Bourdain, what an inspiration he was to so many people. And let's let his life be a lesson to all of us to seek balance with our polar energies, to reach out to those that we love when we're suffering, to not be afraid to ask for help, and to continue to bring dialogue around depression and suicide. And so Anthony is such an inspiration. He traveled the world in search of untold stories and brought healing to many people's lives, and activated both his Cancer sun and Sagittarius North Node by bringing healing to others all over the world. And for that, we thank you, Anthony. We love you and we honor you. And so before we head into this last part of this episode, I wanted to take a moment for some updates and announcements. I normally do that at the beginning of the episode, but I'm trying it out here in the middle, just so that we can get straight to it there at the beginning, And so for those of you who are looking for deeper insight into your life, I offer astrological readings, and so you can find that information out at astrologycousins.com. There's also an Instagram account for this show, which you can find at cosmic.cousins. Also, there's a Patreon account for the show. I put a lot of blood, sweat, and crystals into the making of this show, and so if you tune in every week and you'd like to make a monthly commitment of $1, $5, $10, whatever that may be, you can find that out at patreon.com/cosmiccousins, and that will help me to continue to be able to put the time and energy into this. And so we have one Patreon supporter from this past week, and it's Sarah Jo Ramsey. And so thank you so much, Sarah, for the support. And I think that's all on announcements. I have an astrology retreat coming up in upstate New York this summer. If you're interested in that, you can email me at jeff@brooklynfools.com. And also an update in my personal life. I just wanted to say thank you so much for the prayers for my father. He actually returned back home this weekend, and so we got to spend Father's Day with him at our home, and it appears as though he's going to make a slow but also a full recovery. And so it's been a long month of working with him and just feeling through a lot of emotions, but he is getting better, and so I will be returning back to my life in Los Angeles here soon. And so, yeah, thanks for riding the wave with me, cousins. And so this last portion of the episode, we're going to get the incredible opportunity to sit down with a longtime friend of mine, Katie Watkins. Katie is a Cancer Sun, Aries Moon, and Leo Rising, and she is a touring producer, festival director, performance artist, tarot reader, hair model, and lingerie junkie based out of Portland, Oregon. And so, yeah, let's go ahead and get into that now. And I hope you enjoy it. So I'm super stoked to have my dear friend Katie Watkins on Cosmic Cousins today. Welcome to the show, sister.
Hey, nice to see you and hear you.
So nice to see you. Katie, you are one of my dear friends, and we met when we were studying abroad in Swansea, Wales. And so I was wondering if in your best Welsh accent, you could say how long ago it was that we were living in the UK together.
I will absolutely not do that. Let's try it. Wait, let me try it. Okay. 9 years.
There it is. So Katie is not only an incredible performer and really great at doing accents. Katie is also, I look at your performance art as a form of activism in a lot of ways, and maybe we can talk about that today too. But you're also a festival director, you're a touring producer, a tarot reader, a lingerie junkie, based out of Portland, Oregon. And so you posted on your Facebook like a week ago, I think it was, something about depression too. So you're also open about your relationship to depression too. And so seemed like a perfect fit for today's episode theme, since we're moving into Cancer season because you're Cancer, and also this dialogue around depression. So, but before we get too deep into the emotional waters of depression, let's rewind a bit and we'll talk about us.
Yay!
Yeah, because we have a really special relationship. And I think it's kind of Cancer to like talk about nostalgia in the past. And so, Katie and I, we instantly connected, and it feels like to me a relationship, when I reflect on it, that's very Cancer and Aquarius. And so there was something that I felt really comfortable with you when we first met. And from my perspective, I felt immediately at home with you, which was so special because we were both living for the first time in another country. And so this feeling of like safety and family really is the mark to me of a true Cancer. And so, but I also know that Cancers also don't let just everyone in too. And so you can feel really safe at home with someone that is Cancer, but maybe not always. So let's talk a little bit more about that. What is your experience of being a Cancer? And is some of what I'm saying ringing true to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll also say, I think about our relationship, there's something about the Aquarius that feels in tune with the Cancer in a way that kind of brings me out of my shell a little bit, because you're so in yourself and so able to sort of express yourself in a different way. Like maybe I can express myself really emotionally, but you are just out there in the world being yourself, doing your thing. And it sort of allowed me to learn how to peek my head out of my shell a little bit further and look around a little bit more. And I feel like that was really a special thing for me to experience in my early 20s and get to know somebody who was really open and allowed me to find myself a little bit more. And in terms of being a Cancer, I think the perception of Cancers being really family-based, because I sort of grew up not really ever wanting children and like not having a great family life. So I didn't really understand I didn't necessarily agree with how Cancers were always pegged as the family sign, or the comfort, the safety in home places, but as I get older, I understand how much I had wrong about what a Cancer was, and how family doesn't necessarily mean your genetic immediate family. It's very much that chosen family vibe, but it also means, it's like an introvert. It means to me that I feel better at home in my surroundings, whether that's literally in my house or doing something that makes me feel comfortable. So the idea of comfort is there, and finding comfort wherever I go and needing to feel comfortable. Even if I'm pushing myself and I'm getting out of my comfort zone, I know how to make myself feel comfortable in new situations pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. So I think it's like a comfort family thing, and a wanting other people to be comfortable too. It's a huge thing for me.
Yeah, I'm loving so much of what you're saying, and I feel like I could go off into like a few different directions, but I'll kind of go with the one where you were talking about introversion. And so, and I also think that that's something that I really valued with our relationship, and I still value with our relationship, is that, we could spend like 24 hours together without needing to say a word to each other. But when we do talk, there is like sort of this like really quirky but deep felt conversations. And so it's allowing space for one another to be an individual, which I think both Cancer and Aquarius need that space in some ways, even though Aquarius is very much about group energy, also needs time alone to recharge. And so Aquarius with a Cancer can do that. And so, but yeah, within that, I'm curious, like, so you're talking about comfort too. So what would be like a way that you might find yourself making yourself comfortable in an uncomfortable situation?
I think for me, it's like, so I'm Leo rising, and I have a tendency to come off really social and really life of the party kind of, like, I'm not afraid of doing that. So networking events and things like that. So I also, on top of a number of other things, work in PR. So I enjoy that kind of social butterfly vibe. But I think what helps me to find a comfortable place in a situation like that, like a crowd, especially a crowd of people I'm not familiar with, is really locking into one conversation. And I feel a lot more comfortable when, I get past that initial kind of like getting to know you very quickly small talk phase and moving past that, because the small talk is the work for me, and getting into the deeper conversation I feel more at home. I don't necessarily have to agree. It's not about agreeing with someone else. It's more about, being able to lock in energies together and connect on a level that feels a little deeper than the surface.
Mm-hmm. So we were saying that Cancer rules over the past and nostalgia. So I did have one question that I wanted to ask, which I've never actually asked you this, but what is your most nostalgic memory of our friendship?
Of our friendship? Oh my God, I'm about to start crying. I don't know. Let me think about that for a second.
We've shed many tears together. I'll never forget when we were like leaving Swansea. We were both just like dying.
I was a monster for like 2 days because you left the day before me or something, or a couple weeks before me. One of my favorite memories of our friendship, or something that jumps out that makes me feel super nostalgic, was that right after we got to Swansea, we were there for 3 weeks and we went to the silent disco. Mm-hmm. And and I just remember that because I don't think it was the first time that you and I spent a lot of time together, but we were together the whole evening and ended up going to your house. And I think we were singing Kelly Clarkson songs in your kitchen, or Britney Spears most likely, or something ridiculous at the top of our lungs, living in the student village. So nobody cared about sound level. And of course we had just been so quiet at a silent disco. So I think having the chance to just experience that crowd thing together and then come together, that also coincidentally was the night that I met my ex-fiance, but that's beside the point. And I don't know, I just remember having a really lovely time.
I think the one that's coming to me right now is we got tattoos together.
Yeah.
And that was my first tattoo ever. So, and I was thinking about that tattoo today, actually, like leading up to this conversation, and I got 4 ants, and which were to symbolize my family members. And I was thinking of the connection to family and home, but also there's the one ant that's like crawling off, which to me like feels like very Aquarius, like kind of doing your own thing. But yeah, you got engaged while you were in Wales. And so,
I was 20 years old. Yeah.
We could say this is a very Cancer thing too, is like the tendency to maybe like get in relationships. And so what is it like for a Cancer in a relationship, and how would you show love to a Cancer?
Oh man, this is deep. I'm like giving away my secrets here. I think I know for myself as a Cancer, I think this is definitely related to being a Cancer, is that idea of jumping past the honeymoon phase really quickly. So it's definitely like oh, great, I like you. Oh, you like me too. This is perfect. Let's move in together. Like that kind of just very much. I've been in relationships where, with my ex-fiance, we got engaged 3 months after we knew each other and stayed engaged for 3.5 years before parting ways. And I had another partner who was quite a bit older than me, who has a daughter. And I was just ready to jump into that stepmother role as soon as possible. And it tends to catch up with me before I realize that it's not the right thing, perhaps. I was talking the other day to my roommate about how many people I have said, oh, this is the person I'm going to marry, because it just, I crave that longevity and that depth, that sometimes I mistake excitement for depth of feeling. So it's like maybe, you know, going up a little higher and the feeling is really high energy, and I mistake it for that ease and that depth of current flowing underneath the relationship. So it's easy for me to get kind of caught up that way. I think in terms of how you show love to a Cancer, for me, it's absolutely about safety. And I think that there is a feeling of that because I know that about myself, and because I know that I feel really deeply about somebody quite quickly, there's an element of distrust that might come into a relationship for me where I start to fear opening I open my shell all the way, and then I'm like, oh fuck, what have I done? This is bad. Like, wait. And especially if there's not a constant sort of feeling of safety that's getting cultivated in the relationship. And safety is not like somebody taking care of me at every turn all the time, but it's definitely, I'm looking for somebody who is considerate of my feelings and respectful of my experience in life as well as their own. So as a Cancer, I try to take care of other people a lot, and it's rare that I am the one being taken care of. So it's really special to me when I find somebody who has patience and has time and has wants to put the effort in to also take care of me while letting me take care of them. So it's a give and take.
Yeah. Have you ever dated another Cancer?
No, God. Oh, actually one time, and he had my same birthday, and then I was like, nope. And then he had the audacity to invite me to his birthday party. No. Mm-mm.
Mm-mm. So what is it like for Cancer then because you said that you were in this one relationship for like 3.5 years. What is it like for a Cancer to move through a breakup?
Ooh, moving through a breakup. I have had very, very low points in terms of breakups. I think especially susceptible to emotional manipulation. So I've been in breakup situations where I haven't noticed that my self-worth has dipped quite low throughout the relationship because I'm so eager for it to work and for it to feel safe. So if it doesn't, if I think, you know, if the safety in my relationship is manipulated, then, and I'm tricking myself into feeling like it's a grounded, safe relationship, then that can be pretty devastating. And I can't generalize it because I think I've been through so many different relationships, but yeah, I've had some pretty low ones. But I'm also pretty good about cutting something off if it's not working at a certain point. I don't know, maybe I'm getting better at that as I get older, but yeah, it's like optimistic realism is where I'm at.
Nice.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a little bit of your Leo energy coming into an Aries energy too, which we'll talk about your triple tier combo in a bit. But I also wanted to talk about, home is a theme for Cancer, which we've already said, but I find it interesting that your Instagram handle kind of has like a little shout out to your home. So it's Katie's Instagram is ATL to PDX. And so if you're not great with the city acronyms, it's Atlanta to Portland. And so, Katie, you grew up in Atlanta, right?
Yep, I sure did.
And so now you're based out of Portland. And how long have you been there?
I've been here almost 7 years.
Okay. And
It's
so
pretty wild.
Yeah. So what is your relationship to home and family as a Cancer who's moved across the United States?
Yeah, my relationship to my immediate family is pretty similar, I think, because I am sort of the communicator of the family unit. So I have 2 brothers and a mom and dad, and I feel pretty solidly connected to them. I do go home a time or 2 a year. I actually feel like I had to pull myself out of that home family situation for myself only because I was getting really sucked into everybody else's experience and needed to find my own home. And I wasn't able to do that while I was living there because my energy was getting sucked out from too many directions. And moving to Portland, I'm not going to say it was because I was looking for the furthest place away from Atlanta, but
It's like,
it was exactly
other corner.
It's the other corner. It's a long plane ride, but yeah, I just I wanted to see what would happen to me if I wasn't everybody's emergency contact and everybody's go-to person when they had an issue, from my parents to my brothers, and everybody's fine. And that was a great lesson for me as the sort of funnel of caregiving, to learn that everybody was going to be fine without me, and I can still be connected and maintain great relationships with my family members without having to physically be there. It actually allowed me to put up boundaries that I hadn't known could exist until then. Yeah. And then here in Portland, I have a beautiful chosen family. We spend holidays together, and I actually came out to do an apprenticeship at a theater company in Northeast Portland, and that group of people has stayed over the last almost 7 years. We've all stayed really close. So they are my brothers and sisters, and it's a lot of fun.
Beautiful. And you also have a cat named Cosmo.
I know. How have I not mentioned him? I named him Cosmo because he's the brightest star in my sky.
That's so cute. So when I think of Cancer, I often think of cats, actually, because of their connection to home. And also I've kind of and something that I've been noticing with some of the queens that I picked for the Queen of Cancer is there's sort of a oh, I don't want to fuck with them, but if I'm in with them, they're gonna love me.
Oh, they will wrap you up in the biggest hug.
Yeah. So I love that you have a cat and that we're here talking about this. And so how do you perceive your Cancer energy when it comes to your relationship with your cat?
It might come through the fact that knowing anything that happens to me during the day, I know I'm going to end up snuggling my little baby when I get home. And I mean, this cat is massive and 10 years old, but he loves to snuggle me at night. So it's just we talk about comfort and safety. And the other thing, I will just look at him and he knocks out. He's a jumpy cat. He's a scaredy cat, so to speak. Loud noises freak him out. He's pretty anxious, super tied to me. But man, when I get home, he's on top of my chest and he will knock out and sleep so deeply on top of me. And I'll just rub his little face, and all I can think is wow, he really trusts me. He really trusts me to take care of him. And that energizes me in a way that feels I cannot imagine what it would be like to have my own child, because I have so much love for this cat, And I just think he just really, he just knocks out right in my arms, and I can flop him around and do whatever I want. And he just lets me do it. And so that trust is just really beautiful. The fact that I can make a creature feel that safe feels really good to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're giving us these warm Cancer feels right now. Do you know Cosmo's sun sign?
He is an Aries. He's a little spicy guy.
And so do you feel that? So people ask me this question often. They're like, does astrology work for your pets? And I'm curious how you might answer that.
Oh, yeah, he's a baby.
Yeah.
He's a little baby. He's a little spicy baby, and he just yells at me when we wake up, and he's always squawking at me because he wants attention, and he's like, meh, meh, meh. So yeah, that's right. He's like a newborn baby all the time.
It sounds like a perfect match for Cancer then to
take
care of the baby
too. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I see he teaches me some things about my darker side, my shadow self and my moon, in terms of yeah, you are expressing exactly how I wish I could express myself right now, but that's not how I was trained, or I can get on a level with him because of that, I think, where, as corny as it sounds, I think I understand him better than anybody. Mm-hmm. And I sometimes look at other people's cats and I'm like, I have no idea who that cat is. That's so weird. That's nothing like the connection I have with my cat. And Cancers are just cat ladies, let's be real. But yeah.
Quoting you on that one.
Definitely. Yeah. You can, I definitely think that Cosmo is an Aries.
Yeah. So we started talking about your home and family, and so I wanted to talk about this, but you explored your family's relationship to mental illness through a performance that you did in 2015, and it was a one-person show, and it was called Schizo. And so I'd love for you to just maybe introduce what this was. I know it's like not happening right now, but I think it's great to create some dialogue around mental illness. And it's yeah.
Great. So I created Schizo over the course of a few years, and I did the piece you're talking about was about the third iteration of what this piece was. I toured it around schools for a little while, and then I created the full-length version 2015. So it's been a little while. But my younger brother's living with schizophrenia, and he was diagnosed really, really early in life. So he was 11, and it's normally diagnosed between the ages of like 18 and 22 for men and a little older for women. So the fact that he had this breakdown when he was so young was really shocking. And he's only 3 years younger than me. So I sort of grew up as his second mother and was really caring for him. And not that my mother was totally present, but he was just my baby. So, so having that happen to him, I was only 14. He went into a hospital for a week or so, which at that age can feel so long. And they wouldn't let me see him because I wasn't 16. Horrible memory of sitting in a hospital waiting room while everybody else got to go in and see my baby. I had to just sit there on my hands in the waiting room, and I just felt so helpless. And he had a couple other episodes throughout his teenage years, one of them in his mid-high school experience when I had just started college. But yeah, so I had to sort of watch that happen from afar, which was also really scary and a different experience. So anyway, Schizo, the show, was both an art therapy thing for me, which doesn't always translate well on stage, but I also wanted to I partnered with NAMI, which is the National Alliance for Mental Illness in Oregon, the Oregon chapter. And I ended up bringing in, for every show, I brought in a mental health professional or someone who is living with schizophrenia or affected by schizophrenia to come and talk from a more clinical perspective, because I also made the show because there was no assistance for me during that time, which sounds kind of selfish, I think, when you say it at first, but really, like, the people that are living with mental illness are not the only people who are affected by it, and family members of, friends of, it's a really scary thing to go through, especially when there just aren't resources out there or at the time there weren't. There are several now. NAMI is a great place to go to find resources for family members and things like that. But I wasn't in therapy when I was younger, and I wish I had been. I have been since I've been an adult, but it was great to hear from mental health professionals, psychiatrists, and people living with this that could talk about it from the perspective that I couldn't. So I was coming at it from, this is what I saw my little brother go through. This is how I felt about it. But I wasn't able to express, why these things happen or other variations of them. And it was fascinating. And we had lots of people come and see the show who were on all spectrums of mental illness or non-mental illness or living with or people they know. And it was just fascinating conversation following all of the shows as well.
And I think you bring up an incredible point talking about how it's not like other people in the family are also affected by mental illness. We could also say the same thing for depression as well, that if someone's depressed in your family, or if you're dating someone who's depressed, or you have a friend with someone that's depressed, it affects other people than just the person that's moving through it. And so, I don't know, do you think there's a connection for you with all of this past experience and trauma that you might have experienced with this connection to your depression? Or
I mean, depression is something that runs in my family for sure. So I do think that there's a genetic hereditary piece to the puzzle. But I also think that the bigger piece to the puzzle is the fact that I didn't know how to access resources. I didn't really have anyone to talk to about it because my My mother's also been medicated for depression since I remember, since before I was on the earth. And I was so nervous about whether or not I was mentally ill and I was crazy and I was this and I was that I just tried not to think about it for so long, or I would blame it on birth control, or I'd blame it on lack of exercise, or whatever I could blame it on. And I didn't get any help for it for a really long time, really until two or 3 years ago. And I know that it's something that I've been experiencing. It certainly got to a point a couple years ago where I just couldn't not deal with it, because I slept in my basement for a number of months and like totally withdrew from my relationship at the time. And my mom told me I couldn't call her crying anymore. She just wouldn't allow it. So it certainly got to like a very physiological affecting place where I couldn't really function in my daily life anymore. And I ended up getting medicated, which was, for me, was a really helpful thing. Doesn't work for everybody. And I don't necessarily know if I'll be on it forever, but right now it's making me feel real good, real fine. I've talked to so many people now who have also been experiencing depression and anxiety. And so there's so many things that work for so many different people. It's just finding out which resources are available to you, and also trying a bunch of different things to see what works. And I don't know, this funny dichotomy between like needing to actively seek out resources, and when you're depressed and you're in a low state, you might not want to do any of that. You might not have the energy to, or the desire to go out and actively search for things that can help you. So it's just it's such a difficult topic,
I'm also thinking about people who might not know where to look, or might not have the money or the insurance or whatever it might take to get connected. So if someone didn't necessarily have the resources, do you know of any resources that they could reach out to? Or
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would again say the National Alliance on Mental Illness, so NAMI. I think it's nami.org, NAMI. They're a wonderful resource. They have some phone conferences that are free that you can join, that are weekly or biweekly. And I know that they specifically have a phone, it's like a 6-week session where you can call in to a conference line for family members of people dealing with mental illness. But they've got all kinds of resources on their site, and I would check them out. They have chapters in most states and have been really helpful. And I ended up having this artistic partnership with them, which was really beautiful, because they recognized that art can be a really incredible way to access conversation and dialogue around topics, and mental illness is just not discussed often enough, or when it is, it's caricatured or stereotyped, or the crazy stereotype. And another great resource is Glenn Close's nonprofit Bring Change to Mind. She's got some really awesome resources. She has a really interesting story too, because she has a lot of stories in her family of people who have been affected by or been living with mental illness and mental health issues, etc. Bring Change to Mind. So she has acted in things like, is that Femme Fatale? No, I can't remember now, but she has definitely portrayed people with mental illness and mental health disorders and things before. And she recognized, she's like, if I had thought about it then, I would have been way more educated about it. And I wish I could go back and look at some of the roles that I took on and just be more educated and have a more realistic portrayal of what they were going through. So she was I heard her interview on a Canadian podcast at some point, and it blew my mind open in terms of mixing performance and mental health and how that could be a really cool move, a really helpful thing for me and for other people to be able to articulate my experience. And with my show Schizo, I hadn't been working with my own depression because I really wasn't dealing with it yet at that point. And I was kind of funneling my experience through what I saw my brother go through. And also there's a lot about my mother in it as well, and how, we've dealt with her manic etc. behavior. Undiagnosed, we'll call it depression, but it's been a lot deeper than that in some days, some years.
Yeah, so you wrote a beautiful piece on Facebook last week that was it was not just about depression, it was also like this coming out as someone who takes medicine for depression. I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about what inspired you to write that at this particular moment in time.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's a couple of things. One is definitely, the Kate Spade, Anthony Bourdain suicides that have happened that have been so public, and there's more than just them. And I wanted to just take a minute to lessen the stigma around medication. I absolutely don't think it works for everybody, and it doesn't have to work for you. But I spent so much time telling myself that I didn't want to go for medication because I felt like it was a cop-out, or I didn't want to get stuck in this cycle of trying different medicines and having to be medicated my whole life or get used to it and then never get off of it. And once I finally gave in and just said, this is something I want to try just to see how it works. And if it works for me, that's great. If not, I'll move on. And I take a relatively low dose of Zoloft, and about 2 months into taking it, and it does take a time to, build up in your system. A couple months after taking it, there was one morning where I literally woke up and I felt like I was in reality again. It was like the veil lifted over my eyes in a very literal way, where all of a sudden, all of the colors in the world were a little bit brighter than they had been the day before. And I just was so okay for the first time. And I wasn't, sunshine and rainbows and birds. And I just remember being like, oh, I totally forgot what it feels like to just be alive and not feel dragged into the mud and not feel like I was slogging my way through the day. I just felt like, oh, today I'm just a person in the world. And that's awesome. Like, that was a massive difference for me after so many months of just not even feeling okay and being used to not feeling okay. So then when you are faced with this veil being lifted, I was like, oh my God, life can just be normal and regular and okay. And I don't have to have a big emotional response either way, whether it's great or terrible. And it's just keeping me on this even plane that I hadn't been experiencing for God knows how long,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so in terms of writing that Facebook post, I just wanted to address my feelings around depression. I think it's important to create dialogue when possible. And there's something about acting and performance art and creating art that feels very dialogue inducing and expressive. And it's a way that I have found to express my emotions when I'm having trouble doing that in my daily life and anytime. So I wanted to give my friends an opportunity to see past the curated social media online persona that I give off, which is like, look at these cool travels I go on and look at the great work that I'm doing with all these different artistic companies and my festival's coming up and I've got a show then and look at where, I think I had just been thinking about my social media persona, and I had a friend around that time say something again at some point about like, man, you have such a cool life, which is not untrue. My life is rad, but also I was like, you don't see the day to day. Like, you don't know that I wake up and take a Zoloft pill every day, because if I don't, I'm not going to get out of bed. And I just needed to crack that open a little bit, because I think we've set ourselves up to be these totally unrealistic people to everyone else. And nobody knows what goes on behind the curtain. So I wanted to just part it a little bit and say, I might have a certain reputation or a certain persona out there that looks like one thing, but hey guys, actually this is what's happening. And And the responses I got back were really very interesting.
Yeah, you said that you had gotten some mixed responses, and so maybe we can talk about that in a second, but I was wondering if you would be willing to read what you wrote on the Facebook post.
Yeah, absolutely.
Flip that hair. We're going to talk about your hair too at some point.
My mermaid hair? Okay. I have a chronic illness called depression. I've been medicated for it for the last 2 years, which for me has changed my life in a very large way. Life has had its ups and downs, and I want to thank everyone who's been there for me in both big ways and little ways, which are still very big for me. I want to put this out into the world. I'm not ashamed that medication is what works for me. Therapy too. If that sounds like something that might help you and you want someone to talk about what that journey might look like, all you have to do is ask. I'm more than happy to be forthcoming with my struggles and my experience with medicating depression. Suicide is such a scary, foreboding, unilluminated topic that I'm still trying to wrap my brain around. It's easy to say so many things about it. Why not to do it? To try and translate someone's thoughts, to diagnose them one way or the other. But what I think I've gathered is that it's a parasite that leeches everything else from your mind. It messes with reality on such a level that those who don't understand the impulse may never understand completely, myself included. Yes, it seems selfish, but what if that was the only reality you could see? Everything else gets wiped away. I hold forgiveness in my heart for those who choose that path. I see their pain. I wish differently for them, for the rest of us. Do you need a friend, a hand to hold, someone to call and make an appointment for you? I can make that time. I'm never too busy to help you. Send me a message, a text, a postcard. Depression, anxiety, it can be so scary, I know. I've dipped my toe into your world and have come out the other side for now. It'll be something I continue to engage with for the rest of my life. And I want that life to be long and full of love, and I want that for you too.
The deep felt nurturer, caretaker, Cancer, keeping it real. Thank you for those words, and it's so great to create dialogue around it. And I know that we were talking before, and you said that you kind of got some mixed responses to what you wrote. And so what were those like?
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, a lot of my Facebook where I posted this is private. So it's people that I know in my personal life and some colleagues and things like that. A lot of people wrote with gratitude for sharing, and some people shared their own stories and struggles. But then there was a handful of people who were reading that as my confession of wanting to commit suicide or having thought of that in my life. And that made me nervous because it was not what I was intending for people to take away from the post. I really, so I had a family member who attempted suicide a few years ago, and it was clearly one of the most affecting things that's ever happened to me. And I've spent the last few years trying to come to terms with why somebody might do that and how they could possibly. And when I saw that person for the first time after I have never been so angry and held so much rage for someone in my life, I was so mad.
Ooh, Aries moon.
There it is. And I couldn't understand it was not something that I have ever been able to understand. And I think that is like I was saying, what I've come to take away from it is that and therefore I just don't think I can understand it in someone else, but I don't have to. I can still see how much pain somebody's in, that they feel like that's their only reality and that that's the only way they can escape what they're feeling. And I can't imagine how difficult that must be to be in that state. I wanted to just express this feeling of forgiveness and that I see their pain and that it's not a thing that we need to judge as a community. And I think we just need to be there and hold space for each other in a way that is authentic and makes, like, I want to be a person that people come to if they are having issues and need somebody to talk to about it. I would love for that to be my mark on the world, so to speak. And I think, it's taking away the stigma of suicide and feeling like it's this secretive, shameful thing. And it's neither of those things. It's a place of utter desolate pain, or not, or it's something completely different. And I'm still trying to work through it. And like I said in that post, it's like I've dipped my toe into the darkness. It's a very, very scary place. And it can be so lonely because you feel like you're the only person in the entire world who's ever felt like that. And no matter how many times other people say it, to me, there were so many days where I was like, no, this is the darkest place in the entire world. If anybody else felt like this, none of us would ever do anything. Like, I would know it. I would know it if anybody had felt this bad. And you just don't. You can't see into people's psyches in that way. And I think the more we talk about it and the more we normalize it, it might give somebody that opportunity to say, hey, I'm in a super dark place right now, and I need somebody to put their arm down here and grab me out.
Mm-hmm. Or it might, like, for instance, by you posting that, definitely inspired me to then be like, oh, I could make an episode about this and, like, create more conversation around it. And so your post, along with, like, a few other posts I've seen in the past week, have sort of kind of created this ripple effect in my life too, to like want to be adding to the conversation. So thank you for that. And so the moon is the ruling planet for Cancer. And so your moon is in Aries, so that actually gives you like more of an Aries energy in regards to your Cancerian like qualities. And so I kind of wanted to start exploring your triple tier. And so when we look at your triple tier, you are a Cancer Sun, Aries Moon, Leo Rising. And so your inner Dorothy would be the moody little girl riding the horse at sunrise, entertaining us all with her warmth. What does that bring up for you?
Okay. Well, it's funny because it definitely, like, there's this sort of nostalgia vibe. And I know that humor is a very important piece of my puzzle. And it's often a place I go when I get nervous, or we talked about comfort earlier, and it's definitely a way that I bring comfort into a space, in work meetings, in a tense atmosphere. I'm definitely the first person to crack a joke. And I think that, there's some emotional immaturity behind that, which I think my Aries sort of pops out a little bit, in terms of wanting to just not live in the tenseness, in the intensity, and just sort of like push through it real quickly. Yeah. And the moody little girl, I have had my moody moments. That never happens anymore, ever. Super even all the time. But yeah, it certainly resonates.
And so I think this would be a cool segue into talking about tarot too. You are a tarot reader at Ritual Space. And so what are your relationship to the cards?
Well, I have been reading tarot for a number of years, and it's almost entirely been a personal practice for me. It's only been since I guess it's been the last year and a half, 2 years that I finally started opening up my practice to bring in other people. And for a while it was, I would bring my cards around with me to parties and maybe sit in the corner with a friend or have somebody over for wine and read a little bit of tarot. And then I'd always get nervous and get my book out and make sure I had the right thing and I was saying the right thing. But I keep a deck on me all the time. I have a deck that my mother gave me that just resonates on such a deeper level. It's a Rider-Waite deck. It's very traditional in the sense of I recognize all the symbology. It's straightforward. I can tell the story from the pictures, and it just feels, I don't know, also knowing the feminine energy that comes from my mother and her incredible intuitive tendencies. She's a Scorpio. And so we have our, water vibe going, but, having this deck from her, it feels imbued with her intuitive energy as well. So I can sling those things around like I've never felt with another deck. And then, more recently, I've started doing public events and reading tarot on a grander scale, which has been so fascinating to me because it's such a different practice for me personally, because I don't have to spend the time sort of weaving the narratives that I do when I'm reading for other people. And I'm learning a lot now about the energy it takes to sort of funnel the words through the cards and into somebody else's psyche. Because it's such for me, it ends up being like a therapy session. It's because I consider, reading tarot for me is like holding up a mirror to yourself and just bringing attention to what you're already thinking about, but really taking the time and giving space to recognize those pieces. It doesn't work like fortune telling. It's nothing like that. It's more of I know you're already thinking about that, but maybe let's look at it from this angle. Or, there's a piece about your brother that you're not thinking about. Maybe, you should be thinking about the relationship between you and your brother growing up to maybe access something about your work relationships now or something like that. So it's more about, thinking about the different angles or the different, perspectives on a particular issue that someone might come to the table with. To me, reading for other people begins to feel like there is definitely an element of nurturing for me and an element of taking care. And I would love for them to be walking away feeling taken care of, even if it's not the best news or it's not what they want to be thinking about,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm loving feeling into this, like, Cancer's like connection to the cards in the way that, because Cancer as a water sign, all water signs have this psychic receptivity, but there was more emphasis for you on the other person and nurturing them, which was like really comforting to hear.
Yeah.
And speaking of comfort's kind of a word that's come up a lot during our conversation. You also have a connection to lace and silk, and you either work, I think you work at Lily Boutique, or you're somehow
Lille Boutique.
What is it?
I used to work at a place called Lille Boutique.
Oh, cool.
It's named after Lille, France.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's your connection to lingerie?
So I think that I don't even know if I could say that lingerie was Cancer based. I think it's more of the Leo, but it's Cancer in that it's something that I can do for myself. It's like my biggest version of self-care. So when I got into lingerie, I started small and I was in high school, and it was just kind of like getting a nicer bra at Victoria's Secret and then sort of recognizing what Victoria's Secret is and deciding I didn't really want to put my money there anymore. So I was exploring, everything from H&M to more high-end, a little more like handmade. Now most of my lingerie is handmade and often made by Portland designers, which has been really fantastic. There's an incredible lingerie scene in Portland. One of my favorites is Vava Lingerie. A woman named Alyssa Woods makes incredible, lacy, custom-made, amazing fit bralettes, underwear. It's just awesome. But there's something about, we've talked about hugs and Cancer and like wanting, I don't necessarily want a person to hug me, but I like things to hug me, which is like, but there's also this bit of like individuality. And I've always had, so I have body modifications, I have tattoos and piercings, and they're generally all things that are hidden or that I can hide if I choose to hide them. So I don't necessarily consider myself an exhibitionist in that way, but I like knowing that I have things about me that other people don't know. So there's this, and it is definitely a matter of you don't know unless I show you. So you kind of talked about that with the Cancer of not letting just anybody in. And I'm totally seeing that represent itself in my desire to wear these like beautiful items under my clothes that mean a lot to me, that I spend a lot of time choosing and that I've spent a lot of time building up. And it is sort of my stamp collection. It is my dresser full of lingerie collection. And the idea that on any given day, you don't know what I'm wearing underneath. I know what I'm wearing. My boyfriend might not even know what I'm wearing. Mm-hmm. And that's super exciting to me. And it makes me feel like myself. It's just like my little secret that I get to carry around with me all day.
Yeah. And it's hugging you.
It's hugging me.
So I put together 16 queens that I thought, represented Cancer and would offer different lenses to this energy of Cancer. And so when I look at all of them together, there is this kind of like queer punk vibe going on. And so you talk about your tattoos, you talk about your hair model too. Let's talk a little bit about that. So right now you have like all these different colors in your hair, and anyone that's following the Instagram for this show will also see the picture of Katie too. And so, do you consider yourself to have like a punk flair? Is this like something that you would attribute to Cancer? Did you ever think about that before? Is this an emotional expression? There's a lot of things we can talk about here.
Yeah, I always talk about my little punk rocker inside, trying to stick it to the man. And I primarily listen to punk rock, actually. And I definitely, through high school especially, I think it's like, I don't know. I find this in other Cancers that I know as well, where I think there's a lot of time spent in the youth observing until you sort of decide to start sharing yourself with the world. And the way that I started expressing myself was definitely in the punk variety, or like the gothy. I basically only wore black and red for all of high school. And I know that I owned one yellow shirt, and my parents lost their goddamn minds. They couldn't believe it. They were so excited that I had one. My dad called my mom and said, "Oh my God, she bought a yellow shirt. It's not red or black." And I think it was also this sort of embrace of the darkness within myself. And I don't know. I'm really curious. You had been talking to me about this finding that there are so many punk rock Cancers, and that's expressed in so many different levels. And I think that for me, it's just, I don't know if it's easier access to my emotions or the intensity behind punk rock. It just feels so raw and so emotional. And I actually, digging in my bag. No, I took it out, but I can remember. Okay. Going back. So there is a show by the Rude Mechanicals in Austin, the Rude Mechs, and they just did this show at a festival in Austin this past April called Fuse Box. And the show was a really intimate performance piece about one of the performers' experiences with loving punk rock as a kid and finding that and then latching onto it and using it as a way to express his emotions. And he said something in an interview that went along with the piece. They released a series of essays, and in the essay he said, punk rock might not be for everyone, but for the people it is for, it saves their lives. And I read that line and it blew my mind open, because I think that Cancers feel so deeply that it almost takes something else to really like facilitate getting all of that emotion out. And so for me, punk rock and the loudness and just the absolute intensity of emotion in a fairly, I want to call it like a fairly masculine space of anger and aggression and just, I wouldn't necessarily think of emotional intensity as masculine, but there is that definite like aggro, angry piece that I think women don't get to express very often. So for me to have this outlet that was kicking and thrashing and punching in a mosh pit and then turning around and having to go to my 9-to-5 job and have my brown hair and my, this certain exterior that I was expected to have, that I should have, versus how I felt inside. Punk rock was a good facilitator for me to get that person out. And then I started hair modeling and experimenting with colors in my hair and tattoos and piercings and blah, blah, blah. And it becomes a very powerful statement of who I am to people who meet me for the first time. So we can, again, it's all about like skipping the small talk. I'm like, I just want you to know who I am. Yeah.
And so how does that manifest at your 9-to-5 then?
Oh, well, now they don't care. Now I live in Portland. That's also why I moved here.
Right.
Yeah, actually, my my boss at this PR agency where I'm working, she told me that she hired me because I had a nose piercing. I have my septum pierced. And I was like, I'm sorry, what did you just say? Can you tell me more? She's like, well, we're working with this one client who's got this kind of rock vibe. And she's like, I'm really not that. I'm very New York, and you have a nose piercing. So I thought, well, hey, let's just go with that. So
nice.
Stick to the man on the daily.
Boom, boom. I want to talk about this 9 to 5 energy because all of the signs will evolve into their soul-centered attributes when they can allow themselves to explore the polar energy to their sign. And so do you know the polar energy to Cancer?
It is Capricorn?
The man, yeah, the patriarchy.
That's right.
Working hard, being dedicated.
That's my older brother too, so. And he's held the same job since college. Very committed.
Now?
Yeah.
So
in his 30s for sure.
What does that mean for you from a Cancer perspective? What does it mean for you how would exploring Capricorn things bring a sense of balance to your life? And in regards to your Cancer-like qualities?
When I mentioned my 9 to 5, I was totally lying because I work freelance and I work from home and I do whatever I want, whenever I want. So I tried the 9 to 5 thing and it didn't work for me. I thrive more in the flexibility and exploring the Capricorn it's hard. I've tried it and I didn't like it and now I'm moving on. So.
Mm-hmm. I think in some ways, though, maybe I'll offer some for you insight with that is that, I mean, you are a boss in many ways. The way that you have a lot of leadership roles. So this is that's not something that Cancer necessarily is going to naturally fall into. But when they allow themselves to step up to the plate of their own authority, they really come into them sense of self. It allows them to step outside of their comfort zone, like moving away from home, moving away from family, which takes a lot of becoming your own inner father, your own inner parent, your own inner authority, and doing that. So I would think that that's how the Capricorn energy manifests for you and makes you what I would call a soul-centered Cancer.
Oh, hey. I think that's true. And also, I am a workaholic, so I do never stop working. I wish I could show you guys a screenshot of my calendar and the beautiful colors that are all over because I'm doing so much so many times. But but I engaged when I'm in a leadership position. I feel very much less engaged when I am in an assistant role or doing, just filling in spreadsheets, just doing things that don't require any creative energy. I do thrive in the creative leadership type roles, like running this festival. And it's called Risk Reward Festival of New Performance. If anybody's in Portland at the end of June, hit me up. And and in terms of in terms of, I think about these punk rock women that we've talked about and this idea of feminist relationships and engagement with the world. And I don't know, I mean, even feminism aside, it's like, I am always wanting to keep my head on straight. I want to keep pushing myself to move higher towards that glass ceiling and not sort of let the man bring me down, so to speak, but to be around other super incredible, like-minded women and strong-headed women and all kinds of, people that push me. So,
but still doing it in this very loving Cancer-like way.
Yeah, I'll still take care of them.
Yeah,
they make me mad.
And so when I'm looking at this list of Cancer women here that we have here for the Queen of Cancer, there is also this boss-like energy that they have, which so we've got Meryl Streep, Missy Elliott, Princess Diana, we've got MIA, then we got Courtney Love, Cyndi Lauper, Debbie Harry, and you also inspired one of the people on the list. I actually knocked a queen off and added this queen, and who was that?
Della Reese, my birthday twin. Hey, girl. And y'all, Della Reese, we talk about a big hug, and Della Reese ain't nothing but a big hug.
I mean, okay.
Oh, my God. She is incredible. She, I don't know if anybody ever watched Touched by an Angel. It's really good.
Yes.
But I think she embodies the Cancer energy for me and also being born on July 6th on her same birth date, she embodies a different side of Cancer there is this no nonsense piece to her, but there's also just this big family. I will really nurture you, really take care of you. I will always be here as this mother figure, grandmother figure, like it's we talk about safety and comfort. I'm like, she can wrap me up in her figurative arms and I'll just take a big long nap.
Mm-hmm. So is that your pick for the Queen of Cancer?
I'm going to toss my hat in for Della.
Okay. So
yeah, it's going to be hard though.
I hope people are hearing that, because I feel like Della is definitely going to be an underdog, because I feel like not as many people are going to recognize her name or like know who she is.
Look her up.
Look her up. We're going to talk about it. To be sure, we'll probably look at her birth chart this month.
Yay.
So we're coming right to about time here. And so we also do a thing on the show called Cosmic Slip and Slide. And so are you open for the Cosmic Slip and Slide challenge?
I'm a little nervous, but let's go for it.
Okay. So the way it works is I'm going to put 60 seconds on the clock. I'm going to ask you as many questions as you can answer in 60 seconds about Cancer. And so there's no right or wrong answer. It's really just the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
Within reason, right? In order to get a point for it. But the person with the most questions answered on this season 3 of Cosmic Cousins, will get some sort of prize at the end. And so...
okay, I'm going to stand up. Okay.
Oh, snap.
No.
So let me pull up a timer here, and I'm ready when you are.
Let's go.
Okay, and we'll start now. What piece of lingerie most embodies the energy of Cancer?
A brief.
What color combo do you associate with Cancer?
Blue and seafoam green.
If Cancer were a dessert, what sweet treat would Cancer be?
Cancer would be French toast at night.
What is the most attractive quality of a Cancer?
The motherly nurturer.
2 words to describe a Cancer in the morning.
Real grumpy.
What astrological sign does Cancer secretly have a crush on?
Aquarius.
Ooh, if Cancer were a place in nature, where would Cancer be?
In the ocean.
Besides a crab, what animal do you associate with Cancer?
A lobster.
What physical feature do you associate with a Cancer look?
Long wavy hair.
What does Cancer smell like?
Salt.
Who is your favorite Cancer celebrity?
Della Reese.
Okay, we're right at time.
Yay.
We're going to have to go back. I think you didn't get it right at the buzzer, but you might be tied with Colin Bedell, our Gemini, that got 11.
Oh my God.
It's going to be close, but we'll have to wait until the episode when I cut it to see. Katie, I'm sorry to say, but you came in with 10 in the 60 seconds, one shy of tying our winner. But you all got to watch out for these Cancer crabs, because they're fierce.
Oh my God. Can we do a tiebreaker maybe later?
That would be so fun.
Flip and slide.
So I want to maybe talk about a few of these that you said that you just, off the cuff responded. And so French toast at night. Let's talk about that. If Cancer were a dessert, what sweet treat would Cancer be?
So French toast is so homey and so like something that you can make at home that's not really difficult, but it's so comforting, I think. And to have it at night is like a special treat. So it just feels like treat yourself. Oh, I'm going to make me some French toast and eat it at night.
Yes.
And maybe put like some strawberries and some whipped cream on it and like fancy it up a little bit. Some chocolate sprinkles, whatever you want.
Yes, please.
My cooking show with Cancer.
What astrological sign does Cancer secretly have a crush on? Was that just because I was in front of you?
Okay, maybe. No, but I think it's I think that there's a sort of an innate fear in Cancer sometimes to express themselves fully because they're concerned about maybe what other people are thinking, or they are much more comfortable just being inside of their shell and just poking their head out sometimes. And I think that an Aquarius has it's not the opposite of Cancer, certainly, but it's a more of a freedom, more of that Fool vibe, that, the Fool card in tarot that's just walking freely forward and not quite so concerned about everything that a Cancer might feel concerned about. So I have a little envy there.
Thank you so much for being on the show today, Katie. I learned so much from chatting it up with you, and thank you for your vulnerability to go into these deep well of emotions and to talk about family and depression and also mental illness and for just shooting the shit too. And I enjoyed it so much. And yeah.
Thanks for having me. It was so nice to talk to you and to be able to share some of this stuff. I think the more opportunities we have to talk about mental health stigmas, the better.
Yeah, and so happy birthday.
Thanks, baby.
And so there you have it, cousins. The final part of this episode, I'm going to announce the 16 new queens vying for your votes for Queen of Cancer. And so, who is the most Cancer of them all? Here are our 16 queens. We have Academy Award-winning actress Meryl Streep. You probably know her as a lead singer to Blondie, punk rocker Debbie Harry. We got R&B singer and winner of American Idol Fantasia Barrino. We have Princess of Wales Diana. Eccentric and artistic singer-songwriter Solange Knowles. Colombian actress Sofia Vergara. You probably know her from The Office, comedian Mindy Kaling, musician and singer-songwriter Carly Simon, punk grunge rocker Courtney Love, Pakistani activist and the youngest Nobel Prize winner Malala Yousafzai, Sri Lankan British rapper MIA, magical realist and artist Frida Kahlo, saucy freestyle rapper Lil' Kim, LGBT activist and punk rocker Cyndi Lauper, Grammy award-winning rapper Missy Elliott, and finally we have Della Reese, American jazz and gospel singer. You probably know her from Touched by an Angel. And so all of these queens are giving us some Cancer high vibes, and the overall vibe I'm getting from them is I don't want to fuck with any of them, but I want to be all of their friends. So voting starts this weekend on cosmic.cousins on Instagram. Write in and let me know who your queen is, and I'll read it on the show. Thanks for tuning in as always. Please, if you haven't yet, leave a review on the iTunes. Like literally right now. Rate 5 stars, hit subscribe, share with your friends, post it on Facebook. This was a powerful episode on depression, and I'd love to get the word out and to continue creating conversation on this topic. Check out the Patreon for the show as well at patreon.com/cosmiccousins. And happy Cancer season, cousins. I'll see you next week.